Welcome to News Laundry Chota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ हफ्ता. वी जॉइन यू फ्रॉम आवर ऑफिस इन दिल्ली. आई हैव अ फ्लू, but it's not the new one because I've already done COVID. This is just
maybe a variant.
Maybe it's a variant. I just have been sneezing.
That struck London.
Yeah, but even though I didn't go to London, but yeah, it has led to repeated sneezing. So joining me in the studio is Raman Kripal.
Hi.
Manisha Pandey.
Hello.
And joining us on the phone line are three people from three different cities and states. Joining us from his home state of Bihar is Anand Vardhan. Hi Anand, how are you?
Yes, hello. I am in, yes, but I am joining from Mumbai, yes.
Oh, you are always traveling between Bihar and Mumbai. Joining us from Kerala is Jayashree. Hi Jayashree.
Hi.
I believe Kerala, the numbers are going up as far as COVID is concerned. That's what we get, yes?
Yes. Good thing I'm staying home anyway, so
Right.
that's quite worrying.
And joining us from Bangalore, which is also where the News Minute has its head office, I don't know if it's the only office, is the co-founder of the News Minute, Dhanya Rajendran. Hi Dhanya.
Hi,
So,
I have cold and flu too.
Acha, but yours is also a regular flu, not the COVID variety.
I hope so.
Okay, no, because a cold is not a symptom of COVID. COVID is only cough. So if you have a cold, you can...
We can do a revealed on this.
Huh.
Both News Laundry and News Minute founders have flu. Is it a coincidence?
Is it a coincidence?
I don't think so.
I don't think
Is it a coincidence? It must be on a toolkit.
George Soros sending
they-
virus to India through.
Did they go for the COVID test?
Who?
The two founders.
I don't know. Have you had a test, Dhanya? But cold is not a
Not
symptom.
yet. I mean, I had a test last week. I don't want to do it again.
No, the cold is not a symptom. It's a cough that's a symptom actually. So before I get into the discussion, let me tell you a little about Dhanya. Dhanya is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of the News Minute. It is a fantastic news platform. You must check it out. She's a journalist who began her career with India Vision and the New Indian Express. She joined the English news channel Times Now before the channel's launch, and she was the channel's South India bureau chief. In 2014, she founded www.thenewsminute.com with Chitra Subramanyam and Vignesh Vellore, who also happens to be her husband and is an amazing guy. So last week has been pretty heavy on news. There was that arrest. There was a lot of hysteria around that arrest. There was the farm protest. There were two reporters who were caught by the farmers trying to stage shots which showed the farmers in the poor light. I saw a very sheepish press conference. So we shall discuss many such things. But first, let's get the headlines. Immediately after, I have appealed to everyone to contribute to the new NL Sena, which is for the app. We've had 2 meetings with some app developers. We are hopefully going to start working on the app by the end of the month. The budget we've got from the two who we are talking to is about 15 to 17, 18 lakh. We already have collected about 3.5 odd lakh, maybe 4. So those of you who can and can afford to do contribute to the NL Sena on our newslaundry.com page so we can have the app up and ready. Please fill this NL Sena as quickly as you fill in our other NL Senas. So thank you, and those of you who are listening to this for free, Mufat Khors, have some shame. Go to newslaundry.com and pay to keep news free, because only then will you get ground reports, or you can just keep listening to rants like this podcast and on prime time.
So the headlines. Disha Ravi, a climate activist from Bengaluru, was arrested by a team of Delhi police on Saturday. This is in connection with a case filed against the toolkit on farmers' protests that was shared by Greta Thunberg last week. We'll call it the toolkit case because there's a lot of elements to this toolkit case. In the toolkit case, the Bombay High Court has granted Mumbai lawyer and environmentalist activist Nikita Jacob transit bail, and also activist Shantanu Muluk has gotten transit anticipatory bail. They were also part of either editing or creating or writing the toolkit. 3 teenage girls were found unconscious in their own farm in the Unnao district of Uttar Pradesh. 2 of these girls, aged 13 and 15, died on reaching the hospital. And the third girl, who's 17, has been hospitalized and she's critical. We'll have a report on this soon.
Yeah,
on
we have a ground report
newslaundry.com.
happening. There's someone on right now. In fact, we are recording on Thursday, the 18th of February, and it's 3:30 in the afternoon. And this morning, I think, Raman sir, someone is already working on it as soon as you got to know. Right.
Protesting farmers at Delhi's borders have decided to hold a 4-hour nationwide rail roko protest. This is spearheaded by Samyukta Kisan Morcha, and it's set to happen between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. as we're recording right now. Journalist Siddiqui Kappan has gotten 5 days bail from the Supreme Court to meet his ailing mother. Journalist Priya Ramani has been acquitted in defamation case filed by MJ Akbar. The Supreme Court disposed of the suo motu proceedings initiated to probe larger conspiracy to frame ex-CGI Ranjan Gogoi. This is in the alleged sexual harassment case. Kiran Bedi has been removed as Puducherry LG, Telangana governor, given additional charge. Hours after the daylight brutal murders of an advocate couple in Telangana's Peddapalli district, police said that the killings were executed by professional killers. I'd like to know more about that from Dhanya.
Ghastly video though, yeah.
Yeah. A very curious thing happened last week, which is that on the official Supreme Court website, there was a suo motu criminal contempt case registered against journalist Rajdeep Sardesai over a complaint that he allegedly made disrespectful comments against the judiciary. But a few hours later, the Supreme Court clarified that it had not initiated any such proceeding and that what was reflected on its website was quote-unquote placed inadvertently. An Indian alternative to Twitter Inc. is here. It's called Koo. And it's very popular and it's tied up with Republic. It's a sign of the growing political challenges for social media services in India because Twitter had the clash with Government of India only 2 weeks ago. A court in Delhi said that the sedition law cannot be used to quieten the disquiet under the pretense of muzzling miscreants. This was a case of 2 men accused of posting fake videos on Facebook on the farmers' protest.
Sir will tell us about this case in a bit.
Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani has said that his state will have anti-conversion laws soon. Times Now has accused BARC of fraudulently reducing its ratings. It sent a legal notice for some 400 crore rupees.
Yeah.
NewsClick editors quote-unquote illegal detention and selective media leaks about ED raids are shocking, says PUCL. PUCL is People's Union for Civil Liberties. The UGC has asked all universities to encourage students to take the Kamdhenu Gau Vigyan Prachar Prasar examination.
In fact, the quote is, I write this to request you to give wide publicity to this initiative and encourage students to enroll, register themselves for this examination.
What did
UGC
they ask
secretary.
in this? Like things about cows?
Yeah, I think it's basically a whole lot of bullshit.
Petrol, diesel prices hiked for 10th day in a row, nears 90 in Delhi.
Actually, in the last few years, we have seen a few cases where I think mostly Telangana and Andhra itself, where murders have happened in broad daylight and people have either captured videos or we have CCTV footage. So, but this was I think something we haven't seen. I mean, I can't remember anything similar. But so many people were around. If you saw the visuals, the couple were actually hacked to death in the middle of a road, and there are at least 2 buses next to them. There were more vehicles coming from both sides. But these guys just didn't care. They hacked them leisurely and then got into their cars and left. Even now, I don't think any arrests have been done. 6 teams of the police are behind. The Telangana High Court had given them security. So think of the audacity. These 2 people, the 2 lawyers, had gone to court, the couple, and asked for security because they were being targeted by the police and apparently by people in the TRS too. The court gives them protection and this murder happens despite that. So whoever executed the murder, whoever gave the contract for the murder, knew clearly that the court is closely watching this couple, but they just didn't care.
Wow, man, that is...
And these 2 lawyers were they were doing something with regard to custodial killings, right?
Yeah, so the reason why they went to the Telangana High Court is because they were fighting a case on custodial deaths, and they said the police were harassing them and filing random cases against them in different places. So they had gone to court asking for protection from the Telangana police. But yesterday, while the man was dying, there are at least 4 to 5 videos I have seen till now. When the man is dying, before he dies, there is one person who holds the camera and asks him who killed you or who's behind your murder. And gasping for breath, he takes the name of a person who apparently is from the TRS, but the police have still not said anything about it and we don't know about any arrests.
So, this is New India, I guess.
So, from what we know, there's Fridays for Future, which is the environment group based on Greta Thunberg's work. Started in India in March 2019. There was this climate march, which kids from across India had done. So, from my understanding of this organization is they have around 150 activists who are part of the organization, and the rest of it, whenever they organize something, it's basically a movement where school kids, college kids come. So they call it an organic movement. And the people affiliated are very less. Now, Disha is part of the Bangalore team. They have teams in every city and many towns too. So Disha, as far as we know, joined sometime last year or maybe end of 2019. So we've spoken to many people in FFF, and the organization itself has been facing a lot of turmoil within. The reason why, because in 2019 they were concentrating first only on the climate change activities, which is basically they had written letters to Prime Minister Narendra. They would do these small time strikes. But then they got involved in this RA forest protest. That's when they get arrested. And after that, in 2020, when the pandemic started, obviously they couldn't organize any of the strikes. So most of the activism shifted online, which is when a group of people, I think especially the Bangalore chapter, they felt that it's not enough that you speak just about the environment. But if you really want to protect the environment, you also have to speak for human rights against government policies, etc. So they started speaking about NRC, CAA. They also took a very strong stand against the EIA notification, for which their website was shut down. They got a notice from UAPA. The Twitter handles also were suspended for a day. So they have been under the police radar, I could say, from 2020 when they did the protest against the EIA notification. But let me tell you that not everyone in FFF was agreeable to the fact that this organization, which primarily depends on school students, was also getting into political stuff like NRCCA, and the latest being the farmers' protest.
No, I just wanted to say that we had done so many stories damning, this EIA in the past. I mean, going by what these people have done, it was nothing. We have done real good stories and exposing the government. I mean, during Congress time, and no action taken at that time against us. I mean, this is absolutely foolish.
I think it is getting worse by the day, and I think it's also getting worse because of this whole thing. But it never this happened. But I think now there's the realization that you can justify anything because of something that happened 30 years ago. So people have the audacity to go a lot further, and that is, I think, true across political ideologies, but more so with the Modi government because they have such a brute majority. I think that is clear. But as far as the toolkit is concerned, I just think that with the Delhi police's press conference, the police credibility is at such a low that I speak with people all the time, and I'm not just talking about news professionals. News professionals in any case are cynical about the police. Even regular folk, they don't give a shit what they've decided whether they think someone is guilty, innocent, whatever their political ideology. But I think the police is pretty much reduced itself to a joke now. I mean, I saw the press conference. It was sad.
Absolutely.
So with respect to the UAPA, I mean, even within the UAPA's very draconian ambit, even by that measure, this toolkit does not satisfy any of it. I think former Supreme Court Justice Deepak Gupta had said on NDTV the other day that there's literally nothing seditious in the toolkit. He said he'd gone through all the documents, including those that are available in the public domain. There is nothing with regard to violence or anything with regard to inciting people. When we're talking about people jumping the gun and waiting for the police to frame charges or present evidence, I mean, I think you only need to look as recently as the Bhima Koregaon case. All the people who've been arrested for sedition, who have been sitting in jail for years, charges have been framed, but there is still no evidence. I mean, we keep talking about how every day India gets a little worse, but then I remember 2-3 years ago, Varavara Rao, the police produced that preposterous email which said, quoted him as saying rubbish like revolutionary greetings, we struggle under Chairman Mao, as proof that he is this leftist sort of revolutionary. So I feel, and even that plot to kill the Prime Minister around the same time, these are all just examples of the same thing. And with Disha Ravi again, I think sedition is just a very useful sort of thing to slap on them because it's so draconian and so shocking that it allows them to imprison people without even telling them why and why immediately. So I think we need to remember that we've been heading to this point for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like, what the government wants to do is it wants to paint anyone who opposes them as villains. So it does it in two ways. Either the law allows it, and even if the law doesn't allow it, the systems of the police and the judiciary allow it. Like a lot of people are saying that they broke rules on interstate arrest when the Delhi police came to Bangalore and arrested Disha Ravi. But whether or not they broke those rules, they still did it. Another thing about they're doing about Disha is that the fact that on social media and so on, they're calling her Disha Ravi Joseph. And literally, that's the tweet. Like they're literally just tweeting saying her name is actually Disha Ravi Joseph, which it's not. But the point being that being Christian or Muslim is crime enough. Like I think I saw a tweet which said that they would have pretended her name was Disha Fatima Ravi if it hadn't been perhaps a touch too much for even the most gullible like bhakts to believe in. And also, I feel like her arrest is particularly unsettling because she fits in that idea of, a young, urban, modern, progressive sort of woman, someone who, so it's the kind of, it's not the other, it's not someone like Nodeep Kaur who's Dalit, a labor activist who's involved in unions. It's somebody who's very close to what a lot of
Their target
Indians
audiences.
see themselves as, yeah. So,
Yeah.
which is why I think it's even more scary for a lot of people.
And for just taking from what Dinesh said, in fact, day before yesterday, when we started seeing this Disha Joseph tweets, we were wondering whether to do a fact check. And we discussed this for almost 12 hours. Because as a news organization, we didn't want to do a fact check on whether she's a Christian or Hindu, because that's beyond the point. She can be from any religion and join any protest. But it came to a point when we had to do that fact check. And even in the fact check, when we wrote her mother's name is Manjula Nanjaya and her father's name is Ravi, we put out the fact check, everybody started sharing it. A former BJP MP from Andhra Pradesh then says, you didn't give the second name of the father because his father's name is Ravi Joseph. I felt so ashamed that I had to call back that family friend and ask, what is her father's full name? And then I added Ravi Annappa. That's what it's really come down to.
Why is this so important, and do you genuinely believe this will make a difference? Because you know that my view has been on Hafta. I've often said that the news journalists failed the Me Too movement in India. Which is why the conviction rate or the head rolling rate or whatever, the outcome rate was very low in India as compared to many Western democracies where Me Too led to real, people were put out of their jobs and stuff.
Okay, so I do agree that journalists should cover it better. I feel relying, I think what happens a lot, which I've said before, is that there's a tendency to just copy tweets and paste them into a story, and that becomes the story. I do believe there needs to be more reporting around issues, especially around the Me Too movement. With respect to Priya Ramani, okay, so yesterday was great. I think everyone needed that win, especially in the middle of all this bad news. So this sort of outpouring of celebration that we saw in court, the joy that we saw on Twitter, the photos, the videos, I think it was something that people really needed. But also, I think we should never really forget that Priya Ramani accused a man of sexual harassment. And the case that is played out now is not about her sexual harassment. It wasn't about the accusations or MJ Akbar's culpability. She was pulled up because, so what we are celebrating is the fact that she wasn't penalized for speaking out. And like the battle that she went through was to acquit a victim, not an accused. So when you're saying that, will this drive more people to speak up and so on? No, I don't actually think so, because I want to say it would, but she had to go through a case from October 2018. That's 2 years and a few months, simply because she spoke out in the first place. Like, how many of us have the privilege, the time, the resources, and the ability to even do that? The court has spoken in her favor, and it did make some comments generally, which would be great, as in parts of the judgment can be applied later for other cases. But I don't see this as extremely encouraging for more women, because the fact that she had to go through this entire defamation case in the first place is a terrible thing. And will criminal proceedings ever begin against MJ Akbar? Who even knows? The bar is so low right now that we celebrated yesterday just because Priya Ramani wasn't penalized.
I think that, Priya Ramani said that herself also yesterday, that don't forget I was the accused in the case. So the bar is so low that we were celebrating someone didn't go to jail for, speaking the truth about what she went through at the workplace. So it's quite sad when you look at it that way. But I know that I can share an anecdote from friends of mine who work at a newspaper. And when the Me Too movement had broken, they were discussing with their editors on what they could investigate and what are the stories that they could do on this. And MJ Akbar's name cropped up. This was before Priya Ramani tweeted. And, one of the editors said, we've been hearing this for a long time. You can never touch him. This is not going to, they'll never be able to do a story on it. And the very next day she tweeted and, people could suddenly touch him. So I do think that in one way that, and these are stories that I remember even during the Tehelka case in our newsroom. In fact, I was in DNA at that point. There was conversation about MJ Akbar that, could we talk to people who worked with him? Could we pursue those stories? Because we've heard these stories. But it was always like, you can't touch him. Like, no one will come, no one will say anything. And I think she really broke that. The moment she spoke, there were so many other women who came out and spoke about what they went through at that time. So in that sense, I think, the case is kind of landmark, because landmark for the reason that she spoke, she was intimidated, but she didn't go to jail for it. And that's a huge, I think, confidence building for other women.
Yeah,
and
at
I think the
least,
fact that the court said that you can even complain after a decade, like you can't question someone on why they've been so late in complaining.
No, it
But
was
yeah, it is a bit depressing to see we're celebrating her, not
no,
reaching.
it was a moment for celebration. Why? Because I personally believed, I thought that she will never be able to win this case.
Oh, really?
Yes. Going by all the previous defamation case, including the one which was against me. See, the onus was on Priya Ramani to establish that she went to that hotel. How will she establish it? So
10
but-
years ago, तो CCTV cameras भी नहीं होंगे.
कुछ भी नहीं ना आपका टिकट if you came by taxi or you came by say the train, so
Ticket कौन
you have the
रखेगा?
ticket,
हाँ.
you entered that hotel, okay, hotel का कोई CCTV footage, or you went to till that room, whether you also prove if he had hired that room at the top. I mean, this guy
MJ Akbar.
MJ Akbar,
हाँ.
was he? So all this was, the onus was on her. Okay, this is how it happens in all the previous defamation case. This is a really landmark judgment where the judge has gone by the public interest. He has also gone by the fact that
And by the principle of being able to, like, is there a
Yes.
dignity, like, whatever your pride or whatever reputation cannot be at the cost of someone's
right
dignity or
right
life.
to life.
Correct.
So I think it is a landmark judgment, a really landmark, because I was sure that she won't be able to win it.
Yeah, so I actually differ with Manisha a bit in this. See, the Me Too movement was not for creating impact as such. That's for journalists and journalism to perhaps do. The Me Too impact was really about women coming together. It's about just telling openly what they face to create solidarity. And also, the impact of Me Too movement has been quite big in India, I feel. People know about what sexual harassment is, that companies have to have committees. So it's not just about who went to jail or who got punished, but I think it has had tremendous impact in many other ways.
Okay, guys, for Chota Hafta and YouTube videos, it is behind the paywall, like the full Hafta. So this is a pitch for the Mufat Khors to subscribe. If your students are not earning, it's fine. You can try to get our free subscription, which is supported and paid for by other sponsors who do. By sponsors, I don't mean companies, I mean individuals who give us enough to sponsor one more subscription. And you get other benefits, like you get access to our Discord server and digital events and even offline events. So do check out our full podcast and please pay to keep news free. We have a fantastic new product in our merchandise, which is a scented candle. It has lovely aroma and it also sheds the light of honest journalism. Vava. So spread the light of independent journalism and get yourself a News Laundry scented candle from our website. So I will not go to coup. I have no, I have absolutely no confidence in it surviving. Social media is a fascinating space because, often if you read about this, people sometimes do it consciously. Often if you are growing up in packs without adult supervision, you do it subconsciously. You are doing an emotional kind of sussing out of the pack that you have to exist in. And you're identifying the weak ones, you're identifying the ones who are strong, you're identifying the ones that you can pick on, the ones you can't pick on to survive. I think social media allows you to do that in a way more effective way, because most people, when they're tweeting and they're doing over time, all the data is for you to see. You don't have to resort to memory. So if you just click on someone's social media and you just go down and see what they've been tweeting on a constant basis, it gives you an insight into their minds. So in that sense, I think there is a new profession which you're welcome, all you people who've graduated in mental health, where you can be a consultant or a therapist to someone without meeting them. Give me access to your social media accounts. I'll study them for 3 days and I'll tell you where you are. I think that is the biggest use that has not been tapped into yet. The whole idea of social media is that it helps you connect to the world, not to your state or to your language. That is the whole purpose of it. If I want to follow Ronaldo, I want to see what Steph Curry is saying. I want to see what, Obama's saying Obama's not going to join coup and tell me
But
bloody
but
Gurmukhi.
maybe at a smaller town and cities, you want to connect with your MLA or something, and who
Sure, but-
finds you
No,
there.
for example, if you
No, but it makes no business sense for an Arnab. The point is, it is purely a political. I mean, if you just see the business sense, that what business sense does it make for a channel whose promo says we are available in 17 countries, in so and so markets, and this, that. And then you're saying,
Coup away.
fuck Twitter, I'll get on coup. Like, you're a really dumb businessman. So it's clearly not a business decision, it is a political statement. Just so you know, we are still just at the last bits of a complete comfortable break even month on month. So if you can convince some of your friends and family to contribute and subscribe, contribute to a news ecosystem that is not ad driven, do subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free. And both those of you listen to Chota Hafta, Mufat Khoro, Full Hafta Sun Lo, and please pay to keep news free. All of you listening in, the Chota Hafta, do subscribe so you can listen to the entire Hafta. We will see you again next week with the Hafta. Till then, subscribe, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Thank you. Goodbye.
All the News Laundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to News Laundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sun liya Afrika, Mufat Khoro. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free. All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.